Good morning, folks. Robert O'Brien here, coming to you from the O'Brien Guitars Workshop. Welcome back for another Shop Talk Live. This one's going to be a special one. This is with finishing expert Jeff Jewitt of Homestead Finishing. I'll be bringing him on here in a few minutes. But welcome, everybody, and thanks for tuning in. I'm always amazed at how many people tune in to these Shop Talk live streams and where they're from. So go ahead and in the chat box there, type in your name, where you're from, and we'll go ahead and get started here. Wow, got somebody from France. Look at that. Paco. Got Dantas. That's Wagner. He's all the way down there in Brazil. Thanks for signing in. He says hello to the girl from Ipanema, who is my wife. Rob up there in Washington State. We got, oh my God, people up in Ottawa. And good afternoon. Happy 4th from Chicago. Wow, look at all the people signing in. Thank you, everybody, for doing that. Certainly appreciate it. And look forward to getting started here. Just a couple of quick announcements. Let's see here. The first announcement I'm going to make is about the website. I was trying to offer a couple of comments about the website. And let's see if we can just share the screen here. There's my website. You guys are very familiar with it, o'brienguitars.com. This is the online courses page, and it shows all of the online courses that I currently have available. And if you scroll down there, you can see a lot of different courses there. Some of them are, in fact, done by Jeff Jewitt, who will be on here in just a few minutes. And by the way, there's a quick announcement about the Jeff Jewitt courses here. All of Jeff's courses, he's got 4 of them that he's done here with me. All of Jeff's courses, leveling, wet sanding, and buffing, the perfect neck set, the lacquer spray finishing, and the urethane spray finishing are 10% off for the next week. That's for the promo that we're doing here during the live stream. So you don't even need a promo code or discount code or anything like that. We've already lowered the prices in the shopping cart for you, so you get the 10% discount. So just for tuning in today, everybody's a winner. You're going to get a 10% discount. And my wife, Adriana, she says, hey, was your wife? That's my wife, Adriana. She's monitoring from upstairs. Oh, there she is right there. Look at that.
You said I was your wife. Since when? I thought I am your
No,
wife.
she is my wife, actually.
Yeah, because if I was, I'm leaving.
This is the girl from Ipanema. Everybody's familiar with her. She just brought me down a nice cup of coffee. Went to Brigado. Thanks for doing that. Once again, thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We got somebody here from Nevada City, California. Look at that. Good morning from Spokane, Washington. Look at that. New York. I got an email from Russia this week. I got another one from Iran. So, man, there's a lot of different people that are tuning in for these things. So thank you very much for doing that. And Paco said something about some cookies there. I hope the draw is to win a box of chocolate cookies and Brazilian cake. Paco, by the way, loves chocolate chip cookies. So if you ever go to Spain to study with him, make sure you take chocolate chip cookies. He'll enjoy those. All right. What do you think, Adriana? Should we just go ahead and just jump right into it here?
Yeah. You want me to go up or stay?
Yeah, you can go up if you want to. If you just want to monitor up there, and
Yeah,
if I don't catch a comment or something, let me know.
Okay.
Okay.
Hi, guys.
So the girl from Ipanema is leaving the shop. She's going upstairs to watch on the iPad, and will help me monitor the chat box. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and put your questions in the chat box there, because Jeff's going to be coming on here in just a few minutes, and he's got answers. Also, if you want to participate in the drawing, that's right. Yes, we always have a drawing during my live streams. We give away a course or two. If you want to be eligible for that, in the top of the chat box, there's a pinned message that, let's see, where is that? There we go. So you have to participate. To do that, just click on that link and then put in your email and your name. That way, when we do the drawing, you're eligible to win one of the courses. And I think it's appropriate to give away one of Jeff's courses today. Also, I've got a little thing that announcement I've put there in the chat box that all of Jeff's courses are, once again, 10% off. It's already reflected in the price. Prices have been lowered 10%, so there's no promo code needed. All right. I think we just ought to bring the master himself on here. Let me just see if we can get him up here. There he is, Jeff Jewitt, coming to us all the way from, Cincinnati? Is that where you're from, Jeff?
No, from Cleveland.
Cleveland.
Home of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
There you go. Jeff Jewitt from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame there. Jeff is he's the master when it comes to finishing. He literally wrote the books. There you go. He's even got his Jeff Jewitt t-shirt on. He said he shaved this morning. Look at that. So Jeff is not only a finishing guru, he is also um, a luthier, and a very good one at that. So Jeff, real briefly before we start getting into answering any questions here, how the heck did you even get started into finishing? Did you just wake up one day and say, "Hey, I'm going to become a finisher"?
Well, that's kind of a good question. I hope you can hear me. Say
Yep,
yes if you
I hear you
can.
loud and clear. If anybody has
Okay,
any
good
problem
enough.
with audio or anything, let us know as we're doing this.
The way that I got into finishing was that in the mid 80s, I built two guitars, my first two guitars, which
Right,
was my first original plan.
right,
And I made a stab at making a living at lutherie, and it just kind of wasn't working out at that time. I just gotten married and bought a house and some other things, so
yep,
I had always wanted to open my own business. So I went and deferred back to my second passion, if you want to call it that, which was refinishing and restoring furniture.
right,
That is something I inherited from my dad. And I just found that I liked it. So I opened up a company. We did refinishing and restoration for about, I want to say, a good 15 years. My wife eventually left her job and came and worked for me.
hmm,
And because of that, I got a little bit of attention by some magazines like Fine Woodworking and American Woodworker and whatnot. So I started writing.
right.
And then one thing kind of led to another. And then I was asked to write a book.
Okay,
And I wound up writing 6 books.
there you go.
So in all of that time, if you've ever done any sort of restoration where you're using those really nasty chemicals
Mhm.
to remove the finish, you get to the point where it's not a good idea to expose yourself to a lot of those chemicals. So I decided that maybe I should look at doing some selling some finishing supplies.
Uh-huh.
And one of the things that I did was, and this is all, in the same time that I'm still repairing and building guitars, is back in the late 80s and early 90s. Uh, when you wanted to use a color in guitar making, and you weren't like Martin or Gibson or somebody big, there was like one dye or one color that you had to use for staining the bare wood. There was another one that you had to buy to add to the lacquer to do a sunburst. And then there was another one which you had to maybe add to a filler or something like that to change the color.
Right.
And I thought, well, gee, maybe I can make, or maybe I can figure out a one product suits all.
Right.
And that's what I came up with. I was uh, manufacturing powder dyes at the time. And so
Right.
I worked with my supplier, and he
Mhm.
said, well, why don't you try this product? And it was a product that was industrially available, but it was only for leather finishing.
Okay.
And it didn't work in lacquer. It worked in everything else but lacquer. But
Right.
lacquer is the biggest thing for luthiers. So what I did was I decided, well, I better figure out how to make it work with lacquer. Well, I figured it out, and that was the birth of a product called Trans Tint,
Right.
which is also called Color Tone.
Right.
Once I got that company up and running, as far as I wanted to take it, which was about, I want to say 13, 14 years ago, sort of hit the acme of where I wanted to take it.
Right.
I decided, well, I want to start making guitars again.
Right.
So I bought Robbie O'Brien's course,
Who's that guy?
making an
I
guitar.
believe I've heard of him.
And that was my first OM guitar. And well, the rest is kind of history. Now I'm up to, I think, number 54.
Wow, good for you.
Yeah, so
That's very
so that's where I
respectable
am
number.
today.
Very respectable number. So you started with finishing. You established a very great company, Homestead Finishing Products. By the way, you guys go check out his website. He's got a lot of products on there. Homestead Finishing, and then you got that well established, up and running, and self-sustained. And then you went into lutherie. How many have you built now? 50 something.
I just started number 54.
Right. And you have pictures of those on your website. You also have some at a couple of dealers around town, around the states.
I just dropped 3 off at the North American Guitar in Nashville. That was my first time down in Nashville in about 40 years, and that was an experience. I'll tell you, that's a different town than it was 40 years ago.
Yes, it is. Just like most places. I think we just ought to start here, for the people that are tuning in here. Why don't we just go ahead and give something away? You okay with that, Jeff?
Yep, do it. Let's do it.
All right, let's just get.
Oh, by the way, Robert, there's not 4 courses. There's 5 courses.
Which one did I leave out?
I don't know. You ran them off. There's spray finishing, which is a lacquer finish.
Right.
There's a urethane finish.
Right.
Perfect neck set.
Right.
Sunburst.
Sunburst,
and
of
level
course.
standing.
Oh my gosh, I forgot the sunburst. Holy.
Well, if you forgot that, that's like the main one.
I tell you what, why don't we just give one of those away, huh?
Give one of those away.
All right, we're going to give away a sunburst finishing course by the master here, Jeff Jewitt. Now, to do the drawings, like I said at the beginning, you have to click on that link in the top corner there where the chat box is. You have to put your name and your email address in there, and you have to be present to win. And to do the drawing, I have some support behind me here, and this is Cesar down in Brazil. I'm going to bring him on. He's my web developer. There he is. Hey, Cesar, how you doing?
Hello.
So he's all the way down there
Fine.
in the state of São Paulo, Brazil, and he's going to help us with the drawing. How many people have entered the drawing there?
And so we have 20 people already.
20 people.
20 people.
Okay. And we're going to give away the Sunburst Finishing course by Jeff Jewitt. And you've got a little program that you've written to help do the drawing there, right?
Yeah, the data is collected already. And well, I don't have my assistant today, so I'm going to hold the random number generator myself.
Okay.
Hopefully everyone can see that. So let's see. And then based on the number, we will have a winner. So it's number 11.
All right,
So
it's number 11.
let me just see on my table. Number 11 is Mike McNerney. Maybe
Mike
I'm
McNerney.
pronouncing
Okay.
Oh, I know
it.
Mike.
Show it on
You're the
camera.
lucky winner of the Sunburst Finishing course with Jeff Jewitt. Let's see. There we go. All right. So, Cesar, you're going to send an email to him then to help you set up?
I will let you know by email. Sure.
All right. Cesar's going to be behind the scenes there. Thank you so much, Cesar. We'll take Cesar off screen. We'll be back in a few minutes. We'll give something else away.
Perfect.
Thank you. I got rid of Jeff. I didn't want to get rid of Jeff.
Hey.
I got rid of both of them.
Now you both. Hey.
There we go. There's Jeff.
There we are.
All right. By the way, you guys watching this on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel. I know everybody says it. Everybody's getting tired of hearing this. Subscribe, click the bell, blah, blah, blah. It helps the algorithm or whatever. But, it really does. So if you guys like the content we're putting out here, please go ahead and subscribe, click the bell, all that kind of stuff. That way you know when we're going live in the future. All right. Jeff, can you see the chat box on your end? I don't think you can you?
I can, yes. I've got it up. I've got the questions. I'll have to go back to the top to retrieve the questions. So give me a second.
Okay.
I'm going to start with the first question, if you don't mind.
Go right ahead.
Okay. The first question is how to bribe Mrs. O'Brien on how to win the chocolate cookies and Brazilian cake. Oh, that's not it. No. Okay,
that must be Paco.
Okay. Let's see. Was your wife? Oh no, that's your wife. Okay. All right. Okay. Here's the first question from an H.J. Lim.
Okay.
It says,
who I think is in Singapore, if I remember correctly. I think he's in Singapore.
It doesn't say where he's from. Just lists his name.
Okay.
But anyways, he says he currently has a guitar on order. He would prefer a French polish on it, but the builder only offers either nitro or polyurethane. What are the pros and cons of nitro versus poly? Thanks.
Yep.
Those two finishes are very similar in terms of their appearance. However, polyurethane is much more durable. Usually it is a quicker turnaround for the builder of the guitar in terms of letting it cure so that you can buff it and things like that. The downsides of polyurethane tend to be that it's not terribly easy to repair down the road. Now, that's after the guitar's been finished and buffed and maybe has gotten to its destination and might have picked up a scratch or a dent or something like that. It's difficult. It can be done. I've done it many times, but it's not something that everybody can do.
Right.
Nitrocellulose is much easier to repair, and most luthier shops can do that. The big question, though, behind I think the original question is maybe more has to do with like what's the tonal difference.
Right.
Now, this is just me, and I'm probably going to raise a whole bunch of eyebrows by saying this.
Here we
So,
go. Open yourself up.
Leave the nasty comments on Robert's YouTube channel, not mine. My personal opinion is that you probably have to get a finish about 10 mil thick. Now, 10 mil thick is pretty darn thick. That's about 3 times what the normal finish thickness is of a guitar. Right. You have to get it probably about that thick before you're going to start affecting tone of the guitar, what it would be like if it were a thinner finish. So that's just my opinion. Mm-hmm. I have built guitars with shellac, French polish.
Right. I've
built guitars with nitrocellulose lacquer, and urethane. They all sound great. I think the tone of a guitar is more the skill of the luthier, the way it's braced, the wood selection, and some other things rather than the finish application.
Right.
Now, to get back to your question, if a builder is more comfortable with one finish over another, I would definitely let him do what he's most comfortable with. I think, though, the answer your question completely is nitrocellulose is going to be closer to a French polish than a urethane finish is to French polish. So that's my answer. That's what I'm sticking with.
Good. By the way, Jeff mentioned the urethane finish. He has a course on how to do urethane finishes on my website. When I first started building guitars in Brazil, that's what we would use. It's 2-part urethane. And I became very comfortable with it until I got back to the States and couldn't find the product I wanted to use. Anyway, Jeff and I are going to be teaching a course at the Mark Adams School of Woodworking in September. I don't remember the exact dates, but sometime in September. I think it's the second or third week.
Mid-September, I think.
Yeah, mid-September. We're going to be teaching a course together on how to do a catalyzed urethane finish on instruments. And we're going to do it in 5 days. So a catalyzed product will allow us to do that. So we're really looking forward to that. If anybody's interested in that, go ahead and contact the Mark Adams School of Woodworking directly. Get involved with that. I've got another question here from Van Every Guitars. Let me see if I can get that up on screen. There we go. Jeff, please address how to prevent and deal with buffing compound deposits on a guitar on the buffing wheel. Thanks. And that's from Van Every Guitars. So now I guess you're going to have to discuss your buffing setup to do that then, huh?
Well, I think what he's referring to, again, I could be wrong. So Mr. Van Every Guitars, correct me if I'm wrong in the chat box. I think what you're referring to is as you're buffing the guitar, you're getting little deposits of buffing compound on the surface of the guitar. So if that's the case, that is actually a phenomenon, or it's a problem in the buffing industry. It's called claying, like claying. And claying is caused by a number of reasons, but I've seen it under 2 situations. Number one, and I'm not going to throw StewMac under the bus, believe me, because I think they're a great resource and they make a lot of great compounds. But when they switch from selling Menzerna compounds to their house brand, whatever it is, those compounds do it. They do it a lot worse than the Menzerna that I currently use.
Right.
The other situation or time that I've had it happen is when it's very hot and humid in the shop. And what that does is, well, you have to understand what a stick compound is. It's basically a very fine abrasive, or grit, if you want to call it, and it's held together in a stick with wax. Basically, that's the binder. And the reason it's made that way is that the heat that's generated by the buffing wheel as it spins causes the wax to soften enough so that the abrasive grits are then deposited on the wheel.
Right.
I find that if you have that problem a lot, throw your bar compounds into the freezer overnight, the day before you buff, and the problem should be a lot less or mitigated to the point where it shouldn't happen. But you might want to try a different bar compound if you're using the StewMac ones.
Wow, that's a great tip, Jeff. Thanks for that. Put it in the freezer, huh? Never heard of that.
Put it in the freezer.
Wow, great tip. Certainly appreciate that. Now, elaborating on that a little bit, I've seen the caking of the polishing compounds on the finish on the surface itself. I've also seen that if you want to go back and buff down the road where the finish has shrunk a little bit, I find that I get sometimes a little bit more residue in areas where the finish has shrunk because all the pores are starting to get exposed again sometimes. Have you experienced that too, Jeff?
Yes,
Okay.
and that is a problem, and it's it's one of the reasons that we always insist that if you're going to buff a finish, you've got those pores filled. You don't have any open grain.
Right.
What I would recommend is, if, as far as I know, there's none of these that are made in the stick format, but when they buff dark finishes on cars, they have black or ebony buffing compounds. And what they are, they're liquid polishes,
Right.
which are dyed or tinted or they're colored very, very black and dark, so that basically it disguises that residue that gets trapped into the pores of the grain or the wood. And in the automotive industry, that's done because, where you have like the little parts of the car, the quarter panel meets the hood and all that kind of stuff. Little bits of compound or residue get stuck in there. And if you have a white car, or if you have a specific color car, you really can see it.
Right.
So now, to further elaborate on that, you can use liquid compounds on a spinning buffing wheel. You can do it. There's nothing that says you can't. The only thing is you have to apply the compound very sparingly, because if you put a lot of it on there, it's going to throw it all over the place, and it's going to get in your coffee, and it's going to,
makes your coffee taste better, huh?
So be very sparing in the way that you. I actually know a few people that use the stick compounds that the final buffing that they do is with a very, very, very fine liquid compound, and super, super results.
Right. Have you ever used I think in your shop you use a pedestal buffer. Have you ever used the handheld buffing wheel in a power drill or anything like that?
Yeah. Well, that's the way I first started. It's it's not my favorite way of doing it. You can do it. Now, if you do that, if you buff by hand, I really suggest, and again, I'm just going to unequivocally pitch one of my courses, but in my leveling, wet sanding, and polishing class or course that's online, I wet sand now up to 5,000 grit, 5,000 grit.
Yes.
And when you wet sand that high, it will make your polishing by hand go a lot easier and quickly. You can still, if you're using a pedestal buffer, if you start with a coarse compound, you could probably only wet sand up to maybe 15 or 2,000 grit. But I would suggest that if you're going to do it by hand, you go as high as you can. And there's some really terrific abrasives out there now. When I first started, there were not you had to use that old kind of black or charcoal gray looking wet sanding paper, whatever they call it. And right. I basically don't use it anymore. I use modern automotive papers.
Right.
And I do most of the sanding now dry. I don't even wet sand.
Right.
But we're going to show that actually in the class in September.
That's right. That's right. Now, you mentioned your leveling, wet sanding, and buffing course. I think that's a great segue into giving away the course. I'm feeling generous today. How about you, Jeff?
Let's do it.
All right. Let's bring Cesar back on down there, all the way down in São Paulo, Brazil. There he is. Hello, Cesar. welcome back.
Hello.
We're going to give away the one of Jeff's leveling, wet sanding, and buffing courses. And in that course, he talks about the technique he just described, which is wet sanding, and that way you don't have to spend as much time on the buffing wheel.
Perfect. So we have 31 people
Okay.
on this round. So let's start.
So it's going up.
It's going up.
The lucky
And
number
13.
His name is
Lucky
number.
number 13. Whoa.
Let's see who is number 13. Number 13 is Rob McAllister.
Oh, very good. Rob
Maybe.
McAllister.
Hey, Rob
Congratulations.
McAllister. Congratulations, man.
Camera. Oh,
Can't
Where
quite
is he?
see the
Now,
name
did
there.
Rob McAllister win the level and
Sorry.
wet sanding course?
Yes.
Well, good, because that will address his question that he's got posted, which is like, I keep getting orange peel. Can you address how to fix that?
Well, that's perfect because that course will solve that problem for him. There we go. Thank you so much, Cesar.
Okay.
Thank
I want to
you.
go to the
What's the
next
weather?
question, if you don't mind.
Yeah, let me just ask Cesar, what's the weather like in Sao Paulo, Brazil today? Because it's wintertime down there, right?
yeah. But we are having a kind of sunny winter, so it's comfortable.
Perfect. All right, I'm going to take you off screen, put you back in the green room. Jeff and I will continue here. We'll see you in a few minutes.
Okay. See you.
All right, Jeff, you said you got a question there from somebody? I've got one if you don't.
I've got a question from Paco Chorobo.
All right, let's bring that up. Paco's over there in Spain, very nice little town called Ubida. He is, by the way, married to Miss Spain, who's just a lovely individual, lovely woman. And he's got a question there. Jeff, you want to go ahead and read it for us?
Jeff, best finish for an amateur luthier. I don't regard Paco an amateur. But,
No, I don't either.
Anyways, no spray booth. Could you please elaborate on health and safety regarding sprayed finishes?
Great question.
Well, it's a good question. And if you do not have a spray booth, the option is always to spray in either outdoors or a well-ventilated area. And by well-ventilated, I mean, maybe like, with an open garage door or maybe out a window or something like that. One, wear a mask. A good respirator is required no matter what type of finish you're spraying, whether it be shellac, which is relatively non-toxic, water-based, nitro, or urethane. Get a good mask and get one that fits well. If you're in Spain, I think, is Paco in Spain?
Yes, in Spain.
I would say 3M makes the one that I like. I use a Series 7000, it's called, spray mask. But anyways, I would say that if you don't have a spray booth, water base may be your best bet. It's going to leave very little residual odor. And there's some good water-based finishes out there. Of course, over in Spain, I wouldn't be able to help you, although I will say that I was just recently contacted by a company called Nitorlac, which is a Spanish company, I believe, and that's spelled Nitorlack. They are a Spanish company, and I do believe they have a line of waterborne finishes, and they have good technical support for luthiers. So you may want to contact them. I would say that really it's not that big of a deal to spray a water base. You spray it just like spraying a typical lacquer finish. Apply 2 to 3 coats every day, waiting about an hour to dry, and then let it cure 4 to 6 weeks before you start leveling and wet sanding it.
Perfect. All right, let's go ahead and move on to another question here. I've got one. Let's just quickly address Rob's. I know he just got your course, but for the benefit of everybody else, let's just quickly address his. I spray both Nitro and Royalac Post Cat. For those that don't know, that's a catalyst added to help it cure quicker. I keep getting orange pill. I found thinning helps a little. Can you please address other cures? Pun intended. All right, Jeff, go ahead.
Well, the number one cause of orange peel well, I won't say the number one cause, but the various causes of orange peel that I would say that you need to look into is try using a smaller needle nozzle set. For example, if you're using, say, like a 1.6 or a 1.7 millimeter, go down to a 1.4 or even a 1.2.
Okay.
A general cardinal rule of spraying finishes is that you always use the smallest atomizing set that you can get away with that still applies your product efficiently and without a lot of overspray. I'm surprised that thinning helps. If thinning is helping you out, then I may not think it may be orange peel so much as it may just be the product is perhaps drying too fast, in which case it's just not getting enough time to what we call relax and form a nice contiguous smooth film. Uh, that may be the case in certain temperature and humidity extremes, and you may want to contact the supplier of that to see if there's an additive that will help that out. Uh, I would say that you'll find the most additives to help with different environmental issues like that available for nitrocellulose rather than the Royal Lac product. I've not sprayed Royal Lac, but I've sprayed a lot of shellac, and shellac is not an easy finish to spray in temperature extremes. So,
Did I lose Jeff? I think I lost Jeff. Jeff, dial back in. Oh no, we lost Jeff. Seth, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here. I think we lost Jeff.
I think we lost Jeff.
Unfortunately.
Looks like he had some connectivity issues. He ought to be back though. Let me just send him a text real quick. And let's just. There we go. He'll be back. He'll click on the link, and there he comes. All right, Jeff is joining again.
Okay.
And there he's back.
yeah, I don't know what happened there, but I think my computer may have gone into standby or one of those weirdo things.
Yeah.
Anyways, I would check two things, Rob. Number one, use a smaller needle nozzle set. Can you put in the chat room what size you're using?
Yeah, he's probably using something that just came with his gun. So
most people will just use the one that came with the gun. And
right.
if it's, say like a 1.4, 1.5 or 1.6, you may want to see if you can get like a 1.2 or something smaller.
Okay, good.
One of the things that I really like about urethane, just so that everybody knows, is that my supplier of 2-part urethane sells 3 different thinners. One for the winter, which is called fast, one for general use, which is called medium, and then slow, which is used in the summer. And I wish lacquer suppliers would do the same thing. It's the normal course of things to do in the automotive finishing, and I don't know why people don't do it. But I think there is a well, I'd have to know what kind of lacquer you're using, but I believe Cardinal and most of the people, Mohawk or whatever, sell various additives to add to their standard lacquer thinner to maybe slow it down. And if you can't find one to speed up the cure, which is what you do in the winter, you can add acetone to most lacquer thinners to address that. But that is kind of a tricky question sometimes.
All right, let's move on to another one here. This one is from Gary. Gary says, can you offer suggestions for applying Bright Tone? For those unfamiliar, Bright Tone is a water-based product. He says, I'm currently using Earl-X 5500 with okay results. Earl-X 5500, I believe, is a spray gun, correct, Jeff?
That's correct. The first thing I would say is I would check your needle nozzle setup. I would usually with water base and a turbine system, I would use a 1.0 if they have it, 1.1, 0.9, somewhere around there. If you're using a 1.4 or 1.7 or whatever, definitely that's way too big for that type of a system. I would say that one of the issues with a turbine, and turbine people do experience this, is the hot air that's generated by the turbine does cause premature flashing of the finish or curing, which goes back to that comment I made earlier in that it doesn't allow the finish to then relax and flow out.
Right.
I believe Bright Tone may have an additive. You may want to contact. See, Bright Tone is well, if you're buying it from Crystalac, you could contact Becker Labs, the manufacturer of Crystalac product, and see if they have maybe an additive that may help that. But the first thing I would do is check your needle nozzle set. Use a small one. A 1.0 is where you want to be.
All right. We got questions coming in here fast and furious, Jeff. Let's get on to the next one here. We'll get as many as we can during the time we have here. This one is about your product, TransTint. When using TransTint to add color to wood, should the wood be treated first? And if so, with what? I assume he's asking if should it be sealed so it doesn't hit the wood. Does this type of wood, or does the type of wood make a difference? What do you recommend?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Typically, open grain woods, you don't have to apply anything before applying the TransTint because they're not going to stain unevenly. Open grain are woods like walnut, rosewood, though I doubt you would stain rosewood, but mahogany, ash, oak, and the like. Generally, your softer woods, all the spruces, the soundboard woods, as well as certain species of maple, poplar, alder, and other ones are going to stain unevenly, which is a term that we use in the finishing industry called splotching. Sort of describes what's going on.
Highly technical term there.
In that case, you may want to seal your wood first before applying your TransTint with what is called a stain controller. Mm-hmm. There's various stain controllers out there you can use. Some are water-based, some are solvent-based. It just all depends on what you're using. But a very typical situation would be to use a thin shellac, like a 1/2 pound to a 1 pound cut of shellac, apply it to the wood, allow it to dry, sand the wood very lightly, and then using TransTint now in water only, not alcohol, not lacquer thinner, but water only, that will help you stain the wood. Now, just so you know, I've never been able to stain spruce soundboards evenly by hand. It's very difficult to do. And what I mean by that, by wiping the stain directly on the wood.
Right.
Usually I spray it on, or I seal the wood first, and then apply the TransTint in some sort of a medium like lacquer or whatever, and then do what is arguably a sunburst technique, which is toning, right. And then you can then apply it evenly.
Right. A question I have for you, Jeff, is, and I get this question a lot, is should I color the wood before or after pore filling? What's your preference?
It depends on the pore filling process that you're using. Mm-hmm. If you're using a traditional oil-based filler like Mohawk or Seagraves, or if you're using, maybe a spray-on filler similar like what I would use, or epoxy or something like that, I would color the wood first.
Okay.
And you can apply the TransTint by either water or alcohol or whatever method you want to get it on the wood, and then you can go ahead and then safely apply the filler over that. Typically, in the case of applying an oil-based filler, you would then seal the wood with a vinyl or shellac sealer first before applying the oil-based filler.
Right.
There's other fillers that you apply directly to the wood first without staining, and those would be like the water-based fillers that are very popular. There's all sorts of them that are out there now. Most of those you can apply directly to the bare wood, and then you sand most of it off. And the nice thing about that is most of those fillers are like sanding drywall compound. They sand very easily, right. Powdery, and you can wipe it off. And then you can then apply your stain after that. If that's the case, though, I would probably use the TransTint or some sort of a solvent-based stain to make sure it bites into that filler correctly. Otherwise, the binders that are used in the fillers may resist a water-based application of TransTint.
Okay.
But in this case, it's always prudent to just test on some scraps from your guitar. So, I mean, if you're using, if you're building a guitar, use the cutouts from your back or something like that. Don't test on scraps.
Right. Okay. Earlier, I mentioned the course that we're going to be teaching together here in September at the Mark Adams School of Woodworking using catalyzed finish. And we got a question about that. What is the $525 material fee for on the Mark Adams course? You want to elaborate on that, Jeff?
Well, I can. The supplies for that class that we had to bring in got really kind of expensive because Mark had no he had no I guess supplies there for doing a guitar finishing class. So what we had to do, we had to bring in some buffing equipment from StewMac. We had to bring in all the buffing compounds. We had to bring in an awful lot of finish. And 2-component urethane is very expensive it's expensive finish. It's also expensive to ship,
Yep.
As well as all the abrasives and things like that we're doing. Now, just so you know, all students will be getting some sample abrasive packs as part of that course fee, as well as some other goodies. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a second look at what my expenditure is for all this stuff to bring into the class, and if we can work some sort of maybe a last minute discount off of that $525, we'll do it. But that's kind of where we are at this point.
Yeah,
but we'll settle up during the class.
Yeah, and like Jeff said, all of the products are very expensive, and the only thing you need to bring to the class is your instrument that you're going to finish, and a respirator, and stuff.
That's right. Yeah, you have to bring nothing else.
Well, you have to bring nothing. Jeff's bringing it all. I'm going to show up. We're going to help teach it, and so yeah, it's going to be a great class. Mid-September, Mark Adams School of Woodworking. Speaking of sandpaper, here's a question about sandpaper. What's your favorite type of sandpaper for level sanding?
For level sanding, I use two. My go-to paper for years and years and years and years has been a easy-to-get product called 3M Free Cut Gold P800, or if you have really, kind of bad texture from your spring, orange peel or something like that, you may want to go to P600. It's the gold-colored sandpaper. It's a stearated, or what we call a easy-to-sand sandpaper. Lately, though, I've been using an Eagle Abrasives product, which I will be bringing to the class. All students will get samples of that. And I really like the Eagle product. It cuts a little bit faster than the 3M product, but either product is fine. It really doesn't matter. Although I will say that in my experience, and for those that don't know me, I'm constantly experimenting with different ways of doing things. And much to my, sometimes that's not a good thing. But anyways, I'm always trying to figure out better ways of doing things that, at least for me, are less stress and wear and tear on my wrists, which, because of some, old age mostly, are getting a little bit sore now when I do a lot of lutherie related things. But I would say Eagle Abrasives is a good one, but 3M makes great products. But anyways, if you start with a 3M abrasive, try to go all the way through with other 3M abrasives. Same thing with Eagle, but you can mix a little bit. Just make sure it's the same grading system. That's the most important thing. Right. Make sure that sandpaper grip has a big P in front of it.
Right. Here's kind of a follow-up question. Can you recommend a no-load sheet sandpaper for dry sanding 600 to 1200? The previous question was, if I understood it correctly, is more about wood abrasive. This sounds like it's kind of getting into a finish abrasive. Can you
yes,
elaborate?
Yes. Once again, I would recommend Eagle Abrasives. It's a product called Super Asilex, and you can buy it in sheets, which are kind of 3 1/4 or 3 1/2 by 5 or something like that. You can buy it in sheets, or you can buy it in discs to use with a power sander. I would recommend, if you're new to level sanding and rubbing out a guitar, you do it by hand. Mm-hmm. But Eagle Abrasive sells it. It's a product called Super Asilex, and they sell a sampler kit, which you can actually get that has 600 all the way through 1200, believe it or not. So that would fit the bill exactly.
Perfect. Here's another question from Troy. What is your preference for filling and leveling wood pores prior to spraying finish versus moving into spray finishes without filling? You touched on it just a minute ago about pore filling, but what's your favorite pore filler these days?
I use a kind of a hybrid technique where I do the initial pore filling on the bare wood, whether it's stained or unstained. I use a product that's made by System 3 epoxy. It's a two-part epoxy. I'll try to get the name of it in just a second. It sort of escapes me. I may have to run out and get it, but it's a very good product. And I do the initial filling of the pores with, it's kind of a thicker epoxy, and I squeegee it with one of those card scrapers. Actually, it's a credit card that I use. And I just squeegee it right into the grain. And I find that method of squeegeeing, or kind of scraping the filler into the pores of the wood, can be very efficient. And you can do several applications of the epoxy and get the pores darn near filled all the way. Mm-hmm. But in my system, what I do is then after the epoxy is dried, I sand it, and then I use a spray filler that's called polyester, which is very similar to like a fiberglass resin, if you will. And the reason I do that is because I can spray it on, and it's much more efficient and easier for me, and it dries pretty quickly. And then that's the way that I fill it. If you do not have spray equipment at all, as I said, you can use the epoxy technique from start to finish. There's a very good course on O'Brien guitars that was taught by Jay Lichty, where he shows using that particular epoxy that I will get the name of in just a sec. It's made by Systems 3. He shows using doing it totally by hand on a ukulele, I believe.
Yeah. Here's a quick question about, or not actually a question, but a safety tip. Just always be safe, boys and girls. Here's your safety tip for the day. Check your cartridges. He's talking about your respirators, and to fit test your respirator prior to use with the banana oil prior to spraying. So make sure that your respirators fit properly. You don't want to be using this stuff without a respirator. So that's just a disclaimer real quickly there.
What he's talking about is when you buy a respirator, most respirators that are sold, at least the ones that are sold by 3M, should have like a way that they show you of checking the fit. And it's a way you kind of hold your hands over the exhalation part of it and blow into it, and you shouldn't get any air escaping. So it's a way to get the test fit. One of the reasons I like that Series 7000 respirator that I mentioned earlier that's made by 3M is it's a silicone mask, and it fits. It form fits to your face, and it forms a very good seal. And the particular solvent that he's talking about using is a very pungent solvent. It's called amyl acetate, not isoamyl. It's called amyl acetate. It's the old solvent that we used, or that they used to make nitrocellulose lacquer back in the old days. We called it banana oil.
Yeah. And
because it smells like bananas. You can use any other solvent, as long as it's got a good, like you can, as long as it, like lacquer thinner has a pretty distinctive odor to it, so you could, test fit it with that. Same idea.
Okay. Does Jeff have an opinion regarding true oil finishes and hand applied finishes for those guys that are not able to?
That's a great question.
Yeah. What do you recommend?
I just used, I'm just going to talk about, I had my very first student, actually. I brought a student in. He pestered me for about a year and a half to teach him how to build a guitar. And I finally relented, and we just finished it, actually. And he's in the same boat as a lot of other people in that he doesn't want to spray. He has to basically work in an apartment, or a place that doesn't have spray equipment. And we did a true oil finish on the neck. And I liked it very much. I thought it had a nice silky feel. We rubbed it out with steel wool at the end, and it seemed to be very durable and was a very good finish. I liked it for the neck. For the body, we brushed on shellac, which was kind of a mistake because as much as I love shellac, unless you let it really, really, really cure a long time, it's going to imprint if you put it in the case or if you lay it on a towel or something like that. And that's what happened with his. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to wait about a couple more weeks. We're going to sand most of that shellac off, and then we're going to go over it with either bright tone finish, water-based finish, and we're going to brush it on, or we're going to use a general finishes product called EnduroVar so that he can brush it on.
Okay, good. Robert apparently liked what we had to say about the Mark Adams course we're going to be teaching here, and he says, thanks for answering the question. Can I bring an instrument? Yes, you can bring an instrument. Most people are bringing in instruments. It's not imperative. He says he's planning on signing up and being there. If you don't have an instrument ready, bring sample boards, and we're going to teach the technique, leveling, pore filling, surface prep, and then spraying. So it's all going to be there. You don't have to have an instrument.
Just
Gavin,
as an addendum to what Robbie said, that's a hands-on class, meaning that you're actually going to be using the spray guns.
yes,
And all that good stuff. I mean, this is not just like I get up or Robbie gets up there and shows you how to do this or that or the other thing. You guys are going to do it that are in the class. That's the whole, and that's one of the reasons we have that kind of, expensive material fee at this point. But we're working on that.
all right. Gavin, he would be interested in Jeff's input on level sanding process through buffing on polyester top coats. That's a pretty involved process. If you want to give us a nutshell version, then maybe we could give away.
I'll do a nutshell version. First of all, polyester is not my favorite finish as a top coat. Now, I use it for a base coat, kind of fill the grain and all that stuff. It's not my favorite finish for a top coat. But if you do want to use it, a couple of things. You have to use the right abrasives. I would say the Eagle abrasives I mentioned earlier would be good. The 3M abrasives are good as well. I would probably dry sand it if I could, and you can do that with the Eagle abrasives, and you can start with P600 if you want, and you can dry sand all the way up to P3000. And I don't know of any other manufacturers that you can do that with. I'd get it up to P3000. Then I would switch over to a product that's made by 3M. It's called Trizact, Trizact, and they have a P5000 product that you can then do the final sanding on that. When you go to the buffing wheel, I have found, now this is me, but I have found that polyester is a very tough finish to buff. I start with the Menzurna coarse compound. I think it's GZ 124 or maybe GZ14. LMI sells it. It's a kind of a dark brown or a brown color.
The brown color, yeah.
Then I would go from there. I would then go to the medium compound, which is the P124, I believe, is the Menzurna number for it. And then I would then go to the tan compound, which is a GW14, I believe. Those three compounds. You have to start with that coarse compound, though, because if you try to start with the medium compound, you're not going to get all those sanding scratches out. For whatever reason, that medium Menzurna compound is not a terribly aggressive abrasive, I think, on polyester and other ones. In fact, it's the same technique I just told you, starting with that coarse compound that I use on my 2K urethane finishes, because that's tough stuff now too. And I just see that, Trizact does come in P8000 if you want to go up that high too.
Thanks, Larry, for that information. Appreciate it. All right. You mentioned urethane. I think we ought to give away a urethane course. We haven't given away one yet. What do you think,
Yes,
Jeff?
we should. I think so too, because that will go through all the processes we've been talking about of applying polyester as a base coat, pore fill, and then a 2K urethane top coat.
All right, so let's bring Cesar in Brazil up, and Cesar, you can unmute yourself there. Here he comes. There's Cesar. Hey. So we're going to give away a urethane course now.
I was just double checking, and we have 44 people.
44 people. All right, it's going up.
Yes.
So let's go ahead and give away a urethane course.
Let me just position.
There we go. There's our random number chooser there.
And
15.
Numbers 15.
15.
Oh,
who's the lucky number 15?
Here. So let me just bring up the table. So number 15, I think his name is only the first names, but I have the email, but it's only written Steve on the form. Okay. So I don't have a
That's fine. As long as you got a way to contact him, you've got his email address there, and then Cesar will hook you up with access.
Maybe judging from the email, the last name is Foss, Steve Foss.
Steve Foss. Oh, he's right here in Colorado. I know Steve very well. How you doing, Steve?
I know that name.
Yep. All right.
That's it.
Thank you so much, Cesar. I'll put you back in the green room here.
Perfect. Thank you.
Jeff, you got a few more minutes for a couple more questions?
I was just going to say, let's go as late as everybody wants. That's
right.
fine with me. It's a beautiful Saturday here. I don't feel like working. So basically, I've been spinning up trans tint all morning. I did wash my hands, but normally spinning up trans tint is pretty messy. To go back to an earlier question about that epoxy I was referring to, it's called Silvertip.
Yeah,
made by Systems 3.
Yeah.
They have several versions. I use the Silvertip with the fast hardener.
Okay, good. Here comes a question from David Allen. Jeff, you mentioned earlier that it's difficult to get even coloring on a spruce soundboard with rub-on tints. What about cedar? Is it kind of in the same boat?
Same boat. To my experience, yes, same boat. You may want to pre-treat it before applying your color or spray your color on. Mm-hmm. Now, here's the thing that a lot of people don't understand is that what causes a stain, any stain, to stain unevenly on a wood, it's not the stain, and it's not necessarily wood. It's the method of application. When you wipe a stain onto wood, you're forcing it down into the deeper parts of the wood. Mm-hmm. And in one sense, when you're like staining curly maple, that is technically splotching. But it's just attractive splotching. Right. It's what you want. When you get it otherwise, it's a method. So spray your stain on, don't wipe it, and it won't splotch. And that's the way that you would do a cedar soundboard. I think that would be one way, if you don't want to seal it prior. One of the things about sealing a soundboard before you apply the color is that it tends to look a little too even. Right. In other words, it tends to look fake, or like you toned it, like you sprayed it. Yep. So, there's a method of doing around that. I do demonstrate the spray on bare wood technique in my Sunburst Made Finishing class. Right.
No, Sunburst Made Easy class, which is on my website. Yeah. By the way, I announced at the beginning of this broadcast that all of Jeff's courses, he has 5 of them, not 4 like I mentioned earlier. He has 5 of them on the O'Brien Guitars website. They're all 10% off for the next 7 days from this broadcast. So if you watch this broadcast on day 8, you missed it. So you got to be 7 days from the date of this broadcast. The prices have already been reduced. So there's no promo code needed at checkout, any of that kind of stuff. Just go ahead and check out, and you will get the 10% discount. Gavin had a little follow-up here from the question you answered earlier. Thanks for the info. My problems I have encountered were all abrasive related, so I really appreciate it. Yeah, Jeff, he really knows his stuff here. And so all of his
Gavin, feel free to touch base with me privately or through social media if you have any follow-up on that, because, that's what I'm here for. I'm known as the finishing guy.
That's right.
I can't help it.
John has a quick question. Let's see, John, can I add trans tint colors directly to the lacquer to do a sunburst on a very thin veneer curly maple top over a vinyl sealer? What do you think, Jeff?
Well, absolutely. That's the way that it's done. what you do is, okay, assuming you've got the vinyl sealer already applied. So get it nice and smooth with P400, maybe P600, whatever you need to get it smooth. Remove all the sanding dust. Then what I do, I take 1 part gloss lacquer, nitrocellulose, 2 parts thinner for that lacquer, mix it together, and then you add your transient colors directly to that mixture, and then spray it onto the wood. And that whole recipe that I just gave you, as well as recipes for certain types of sunburst finishes, like the tobacco sunburst and other ones, are all in my Sunburst Made Simple course. So if you look at that on the online class, what I do is something that's very unique in that I give you actual recipes for that, which is, I've never seen anybody do that. Whenever you watch somebody doing like a sunburst demonstration on YouTube or something like that, they just take that transient bottle and they just squirt some into a jar full of lacquer, and then they start spraying it, and you have no idea how much they use. So anyways, just a heads up.
Yeah, good. Let's see. David Allen's saying thank you for the answer there. So you're quite welcome, David. You notice that Jeff is always very free with his knowledge and knowledge base and his information. If you call him on the phone, he'll answer your question. That's exactly how I met Jeff years and years ago. I had done a video on YouTube about spray guns and how to set up spray guns and stuff. And I mentioned Jeff in the video and gave a link to him. And sometime later, I had a spray gun show up on my doorstep. That's the kind of guy that Jeff is. He says, "Hey, thanks for mentioning me," and we've been good friends ever since. David Schramm, my lacquer finish is now incredible and scratch-free thanks to Jeff. Well, I'm glad you appreciate that there, David. And just a little information about David. When I started building guitars about 25 years ago, about the only thing available on the web was Frank Ford's site, frets.com, and David Schramm had a little website called The Online Apprentice. And that was about all that was out there. And I've read just about everything that David put out. So thank you, David, for sharing your knowledge as well. All right.
Well, that's an incredible kudo to get from David on that. I see one last question from Christian.
Yes, let's put that one up. Do you have a flow chart of which finishes can be used with other finish types? Oh, I get that question a lot. Hey, can I spray this over this or add this over this? What's your recommendation there?
Well, it's a little bit of a complicated answer that would probably be beyond our time allotment to answer that really. But generally, very generally, if you use de-waxed shellac, and that's shellac that has the wax removed and it's sold as de-waxed shellac. Those are flakes that you would mix yourself using the appropriate denatured alcohol or alcohol product. Just about any finish that I know of can be put over that, except for maybe the really high-tech finishes, like polyester and the like. I don't know if you can do that, but generally you can put just about any type of finish over a fully cured shellac. Finishes that are generally incompatible with each other would be, I would never put a lacquer finish over an oil finish. Say, for example, I would not spray nitrocellulose lacquer over an oil-based polyurethane finish. There's going to be some exceptions to everything, of course. It's sort of like for those of you that ever have played or tried to learn chess, you learn some basic rules. And then as you play the game, you learn 52 exceptions to each rule. So, it's sort of funny. But I would say that really, if you do have a question, try to ask the finish manufacturer. That doesn't always work, though, because they're going to recommend their own products, or they're going to say, like, for example, you can't use my product over another manufacturer. And, that's just the way that they're going to be wired. So if you do have a question, you can always reach out to me. I'll do the best I can to answer it.
Okay. Another quick question. I'll just answer one or two more here, and then we'll call it quits for the day because I've got things to be doing too. And I'm sure, Jeff, you do. This one's from David. how would you keep white perfuming lines clean if you want to do a hand-rubbed sunburst? That's also a problem that early in my career had. It was just how to keep them clean in general when you're sanding your pore filler off and stuff like that. How do you keep your perfuming lines clean?
Well, the one way to do that is to use plastic purfling, plastic binding. That's not going to be attacked by a lot of stains. At least Transtent in water won't attack it. So, for example, if I'm doing a sunburst on a maple guitar body that I intend to do, like where I'm staining the sides by hand, I'll use Ivoroid binding or ABS or something like that. That's one way of doing it. I do find that with most binding, though, because your sanding puts minute scratches into it, it does have a tendency to take the color of the dye or the color that you applied. So you do have to go back and maybe scrape them with a razor blade,
right?
Very carefully. If you're using wood purfling or fiber purfling, I don't have a really easy answer for that. If you're applying the sunburst by hand, you could try sealing it, pre-sealing it with maybe shellac, but that's tough to do. I did at one time when I was hand staining a soundboard that I had some herringbone on, which is a wood product. I actually found a company that sells blanks for making your own like magic markers. They're actually bodies, plastic bodies, and they have the felt part and the cartridge that sits inside to make your own magic markers. I think they're sold. If you look it up online, you can maybe find it. And then I put some de-waxed shellac in there, so I made like a shellac magic marker,
right? And
I used that to seal the herringbone around the perimeter of the guitar around 3 or 4 times. And the when I applied the stain to the bare wood, it didn't take. So that was the way I did it.
Yep, that's the way I learned from actually Cesar down there in Brazil. His father taught me how to build guitars, and he taught me that trick. Take a magic marker, empty it out, and he'd put lacquer that had been thinned back, and you just paint the lines.
Yeah,
that worked
great.
Idea. That worked great. All right, let's grab one more question here, and then we should probably call it quits. This one is from Dimitri. What about shellac as a sealer with oil-based fillers before and after filling? Would you like seal the wood and then put the filler and then put another shellac barrier coat on there? Is that kosher?
That's the way that we always did it when I did furniture, before the vinyl sealers and some of those other sealers came out. But just lay a coat of de-waxed shellac down first, scuff sand it. When I say scuff sand, I mean sand it with like 320 or higher. Just get rid of the dust nibs or whatever you want to call them. Get it smooth. Apply your filler. Let the filler dry, and make sure you follow the instructions. It sometimes may take 1 or 2 days to dry, fully dry. And then put another coat of shellac over that. And then go on to the rest of your finishing schedule. Right. And that's the way that you can do that.
Perfect. We have given away a sunburst course, a leveling, wet sanding, and buffing course, a urethane course. I think we ought to give a spray finishing lacquer course away. What do you think, Jeff?
Spray finishing with Jeff Jewitt, I think it's called. That will, that's the course that tells you how to do the finishes that are currently being done by Martin, Gibson, and Guild, and some of the other ones. A very traditional oil-based vinyl sealer, Nitro setup. That's fine.
All right, here we come with Cesar all the way down there in São Paulo, Brazil. Hello, Cesar. Welcome back.
Hello. So this time we have 45 participants.
Okay, 45 participants. Let's do the random number drawer there. Number 39.
39.
Who's number 39?
Let me check our table. Just a moment. 39 is Scott McKee.
Scott McKee, you're the lucky winner. So we have given all of Jeff's finishing courses away. He does have another one called Perfect Neck Set. There we go. Scott McKee, you're the lucky winner. So we've given away 4 courses. Thank you again, Cesar.
Let's give away another one, Robbie.
What do you want to give away
Let's
this
give away
time?
the last one.
What's
Huh?
that?
Let's give away a fifth course.
What do you want to give away? The only one we haven't given away is not necessarily finishing related, but it's a perfect
The
neck
perfect
set.
next step.
You want to give that one away?
Give away that one.
All right, let's
Yep,
go ahead
let's
and
do
give
it.
a perfect neck set. Not necessarily finishing related, but Jeff has done demonstrated his technique how to get a perfect neck set every time. All right, go ahead, Cesar.
Let's roll it again. And
Number 33. Who's number 33?
Excellent.
let's see. 33. Gary Hirsch.
Gary, you are the lucky winner there of the perfect neck set course. And Cesar will be in touch. There we go. Cesar will be in touch, and he will get you hooked up for all of these. Everybody who's won a course today, Cesar will be in touch. So
Yep.
check your emails, check your spam box if you needed to, and he will get you hooked up with the access to the courses. Thank you very much, Cesar.
We've got 2 last questions to answer.
All right,
Robbie,
go ahead.
So let's get them done.
One
do
of them
the one
is
first from John Catches.
I got one about the CA glue as a finishing. That's from Jonatas. He's also down there in Brazil. What about CA glue as a finishing? You ever tried that, Jeff?
I haven't done it as a finish. I've done it as a pore filler.
Okay.
On to kind of speed things up. Not on an entire instrument. I've done it on like truss rod covers and peg heads.
Okay.
And smaller areas. It works fine. I would say that the main thing is let it dry. After you, particularly if you use that kicker or accelerator,
Right.
let it dry. Don't go right into your finishing after like 30 minutes or something like that. Give it, maybe a half a day to dry.
Right.
You can do it as a finish. And I think, once again, I would not do an entire instrument with it. It's pretty expensive, and it's kind of nasty stuff. The fumes from that are really, really nasty. Yeah. So I've not done a whole instrument with it, but in a pinch, if I forget to, finish a truss rod cover or something else that's supposed to go with a guitar, I'll do that.
Okay.
And then there's one last question.
Yeah, I didn't see the last question. Where's that?
What about no? Let me go up here. Can you address the advantages of royal lac over traditional shellac?
Okay.
From John Catches.
Okay.
So, as a disclaimer, I've not used royal lac, but what royal lac is, technically, it's a modified shellac product. So it's primarily shellac. And then the manufacturer, I believe, again, he seems to be a little bit cagey about what he's actually putting in there. Right. But it's a synthetic resin that is sort of like a catalyzed resin. You mix a catalyst with it to cause the cure. So if you think of it this way, it's sort of like shellac with a sort of like another type of finish that is cured chemically with a catalyst. Okay, the advantages of that technically are that it will be more durable than normal shellac. So it should have better water resistant, and it should have maybe a little bit improved alcohol resistance, although I don't know. I've never used the product. But that would be the benefits of it, if there are benefits. I don't like using. I don't like shellac finished guitars that are either where you're brushing the shellac on or spraying it on. If you're going to use shellac on a guitar, I would recommend learning how to French polish because it deposits a much thinner finish film that is going to be a little bit less resistant to getting marred and scratched and things like that. But other than that, royal lac should be pretty much very similar to just using a shellac finish. I don't think you can French polish with it. Robbie would know that.
Some people have. I did some testing with it. You do want to thin it back, and my results and other comments that I've received is that it does French polish very well.
Okay. Well, good.
Just
Do
learned
you
to,
use oil? Do you use a lubricant with it?
very, very little, very little.
What lubricant do you use when you French polish, Robbie?
Great question. I was taught to use extra virgin olive oil because it doesn't, like some of your other oils out there, remain in the finish and can become rancid. I was taught to use extra virgin olive oil. However, I've used just about everything available, including mineral oil, liquid Vaseline. You name it, I've used it. But these days, I'm using extra virgin olive oil. All right. Well, Jeff, I think we've given people enough information just to be dangerous. What do you think?
I think so. Yeah. Just remember my tip of the day is always put alcohol in the finish and not the finisher. But that's a hard thing to say to somebody on the 4th of July. But if you're putting alcohol in the finisher, stay at home and don't go out there and drive.
So all you folks that did not win anything today, and we gave away 5 courses, all you folks that didn't win anything for the next 7 days from the point of this broadcast, in other words, next weekend, all of Jeff's courses are 10% off. The prices have already been lowered on the website, so no promo code needed. They're already the discount's already reflected. Just go ahead and help support Jeff there, because I'm sure he'll greatly appreciate it, and I will as well. Thank you very much for everybody for tuning in. And if you want to drop by the Mark Adams School of Woodworking in mid-September, Jeff and I will be there helping everybody finish catalyzed urethane instruments.
As a disclaimer, Robbie, I believe that course is filled.
Oh, is it? Okay.
So
I didn't know that. But still go ahead and contact them. Maybe you can get on a waiting list or something.
For this year. But you might be able to get on a waiting list. I don't know.
Yep. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and call it done, because the girl from Ipanema is wanting me to go walk outside here take a quick little walk. Thank you, Jeff, for your time. Thank you, everybody else, for tuning in. Over and out, and we'll see you next time.
Happy 4th of July, everybody.